So the General Motors CEO, Mary Barra, who I personally, I got to get a ladies a little bit of a round of applause. I think that Mary Barra, for the most part, I've seen some mishaps over at General Motors, but I think that she has really, really, really done a good job as a female CEO. I think that she has really done a good job in managing the transition over to EV vehicles, continuing to raise profits, lowering the dealership network to where they don't become interdependent on the automotive industry in order to continue to be profitable, keeping a smaller day supply than our competitors, staying relevant in this new age of technology, and continuing to invest in the platform. I have to say that I'm not a fan of female leadership. I'm not a fan of female CEOs. A lot of times they make emotional decisions. I'm not a fan of female preachers. I think that Mary Barra is one of the exceptions, personally. I think that she is absolutely, positively a great CEO, and she has done a phenomenal job as a CEO of General Motors, and she's been a CEO of General Motors for a long time. So, objectively speaking, and again, I'm just going to call it straight down the middle. I'll give my opinion shortly, but objectively speaking, I think that Mary Barra has done a great job as the CEO and continuing to drive profits over at General Motors, as well as navigating through the union strikes and all of that. So she's faced a lot. G Money says, AD, you are pandering to women right now. What transition? They suck. Well, apparently you have not been familiar with the profitable quarters that General Motors has been dealing with for a long time. Apparently you wasn't aware of what happened during the union strike for more wages over both Canada and here in the United States of America. Apparently you're not familiar with all of the things that she's had to do as far as Listen, man, listen. I'm not going to diss her just because she's a woman. How come when you give a woman props for doing a good job, you're no longer being objective, now you're pandering? So I'm no longer an equal accountability partner because I'm pandering? Interesting. I'm wrong and strong on this. G Money then comes back and say, what am I wrong and strong about? Maul says she is the one CEO I despise. The Impala was the best affordable sedan, but it wasn't economically feasible for them to continue to manufacture it. Are y'all making an emotional? Oh, do we have guys making emotional decisions because they don't necessarily like the fact that she killed a car that they liked? Y'all got to get out of y'all emotions. None of you guys are actually making a logical argument based off of business. You are making an argument based off of the fact that she's a woman. I don't hate women. Do I believe that most women deserve to be in leadership? No. Do I think that there are some women and some anomalies that can truly earn their way and is not diversity, equity, and inclusion their way into leadership that is great for companies? Absolutely. And I believe that Mary Barra has done a great job as a CEO of General Motors. She's done a better job than most of the CEOs before her. She's generated more revenue, more profits in an unprofitable transitioning landscape. She's done a great job. Really? I can't believe y'all this emotional. I can't believe y'all this emotional. So y'all are mad because she's a woman, but you can't necessarily point out any of the things that she's done wrong as a CEO. Y'all wild, bro. Y'all are wild. I'm amazed at y'all. So wait a minute. Y'all would mess up y'all money just because y'all don't necessarily like a woman in leadership? I don't think that most women should be in leadership either. But that doesn't mean that I'm gonna mess up the money if I see one that is exceptional or an anomaly. I'm not going to limit the fact that if she's better than men, what I stand for is women not being able to get a leg up on men just because they're a woman. If she is the best CEO that the company has had in decades, why would you not want her if you're a shareholder and you want to make sure that you get as many profits as you can? I'm scared for y'all women. I'm scared for the women that get with y'all. Y'all got to chill, bro. Pull up GM's numbers. Okay, I'll pull them up. Let's pull them up. GM profits. Let's do this. GM profits under Mary Barra. See if I can get something popping with that. Share screen because I don't want to do this in a silo. All right. Right now, as of 4 hours ago, Barra's letter, the company now expects to make between $10 and $12.5 billion this year, sharply lower than a record. She did a record $15 billion last year. And even with tariffs, and even with the adjustments to the market, and even with the transition over to EV vehicles, even with the uncertainty between the Trump and the Biden administration, she's still on course to make between 10 and 12.5 billion, and she did for record $15 billion last year. What is it that you don't like about her again? If she's returning a significant amount of money to shareholders for the value that she's building, and she's doing record profits year over year over year, what is it that you are concerned about? General Motors employees wasn't complaining about them profit sharing checks that they was getting, was they? General Motors had the biggest profit sharing checks in Detroit, bigger than Chrysler, bigger than Ford's. That's the honest to God truth. What is it that you don't like about her? You mad. You mad. All right. Anyways, let's go ahead and get back, because y'all, again, you're not using logic. Men, listen, fellas, we got to get out of our emotions. We have to get out of our emotions. We have to make decisions based off of logic, not emotions. If you're able to compete and you're good at your job and you're driving shareholder value while continuing to transition the company into the new ways into a technology company, shout out to you. So shout out again, like I said, to Mary Barra, who I think is a great CEO and has done a great job driving profits over at General Motors and is having record years under her leadership. Got to give her props.
As tariffs threaten to raise the price of new cars, Americans are racing to the showrooms.
Chris Van Cleve reports they are trying to beat the price hikes.
I like this.
Akio Miller and his wife are accelerating their search for an SUV.
It is very smooth drive, too.
Test driving a new Hyundai that could soon see a price increase due to a 25% tariff.
With everything going on with the up and down with the...
What is a Detroit emotion, G-Money? What is Detroit emotion? Bro, you got to get a profile picture before you can even say stuff like that to me. Let me refocus.
Tariffs and the car prices, I was like, you know what, we need to probably look like sooner than later.
You feel like if you don't buy it now, you're going to pay more later?
I definitely feel that way. Cars are already expensive, and then now they tacking on the extra tariff taxes, I like to call it. It's going to be way out of price range.
The Millers are far from alone. March saw new car sales surge nationwide, jumping over 17% from February and nearly 12% over the same time last year, while driving down dealer inventory of pre-tariff vehicles by 10%. Economist Patrick Anderson.
You got a lot of sales in March that were basically people buying ahead of the tariffs. And that means, unfortunately, we're going to have lower.
I don't have to say she's the top executive at GM. She's a CEO. As goes without saying. And yes, I am going to point out the difference between a female and a male executive, largely because I don't believe, and I've gone on record as saying it, I don't believe that in most situations that women are capable of being better CEOs than men. However, there are exceptions to the rules. And when a woman does really well, and I don't think that we should limit it based off of merit or based off of gender, I think that if you are good enough to compete against the big boys, if you're willing to forego having children, if you want to continue to run up the bag, if you are going to get your position based off of your record and not based off of diversity, equity, and inclusion, or just because you're a woman, and you can compete, then you should get the job. I don't think we should limit it. I just don't think that we should give them a leg up just because they're a woman. Now, I am going to point out the fact that she is a woman because of what I've previously stated about the fact that I don't think that most women are suited for leadership. But guess what business has? Business only cares about the numbers. We don't care about your feelings. We don't care about your gender. I don't care if you Indian. I don't care if you black. I don't care if you white. I care about whether or not you're returning shareholder value. It's the only thing that matters. The only thing that matters.
Or sales later on when those people aren't buying cars that they originally intended to buy.
90% of this car was made in Korea. Seems like a vehicle that would get hit with a significant tariff. Its sticker price right now is almost $51,000. Would that go up?
No doubt it would go up. The question is to how much it would go up.
Well, that's why Hyundai is now expanding their manufacturing capacity here in the United States of America so that they don't have to pay tariffs. And that's where the American jobs are coming from.
That unknown led to a record March for George Glassman's Subaru, Hyundai, Kia, and Mitsubishi dealerships in suburban Detroit.
We've stocked up in anticipation of higher prices.
How long do you think then, after tariffs would go into effect, that you would start seeing that ripple into your costs and ultimately what people pay?
It'd be immediate. I don't think there's any doubt about it.
So, cars are selling and they're moving off the dealership lots at a record amount. And here's Mary Barra specifically speaking about what is going on and what adjustments General Motors is going to make. And then I'll give you my thoughts on whether or not I hate her again or not, right?
Welcome back. General Motors this morning cutting its outlook for 2025 because of a $4 to $5 billion dent in profits over tariffs. In the company's shareholders' letter, the company writes, quote, incorporating the positive impact of the administration's action this week, we are updating our full-year adjusted EBIT guidance to a range of $10 to $12.5 billion, including a current tariff exposure of $4 to $5 billion. General Motors reported strong earnings earlier this week, but withdrew prior guidance and pushed the investor call back until this morning as a result of uncertainty over tariffs. We did get some clarity earlier in the week on Tuesday when President Trump signed a pair of executive actions relieving domestic car makers from paying stacked tariffs. Joining me now with more on all of this is the CEO of General Motors, Mary Barra. Mary, it's great to have you this morning. Thanks so much for spending the time.
I might order me a ZR1. I like that Corvette. I can't keep ordering all of these cars. I'm about to be out of town every single month.
Well, it's really great to be here with you today as well, Maria. Thank you.
Tell us about 2025 and what you are expecting as a result of these tariffs.
Well, as we said, we've updated our guidance to be from an earnings before income, interest and taxes, EBIT, of $10 to $12.5 billion. And that does include a $4 to $5 billion tariff impact with what we know now. We're very appreciative that the president took these actions. We've been in ongoing conversations with him.
Thank you. The ZR1 is awesome.
Frankly, since before the inauguration. And the administration has really taken the time to understand the auto industry, understand the U.S. auto industry, and the complex supply chain, the capital intensive nature of our business. And so we're really appreciative that he is taking these steps because we're very aligned on the mission to have a strong manufacturing base, have a strong automotive industry in this country, and to make sure that we have a level playing field around the globe. So we're aligned from that perspective, and we really appreciate the clarity that you had also talked about that is going to allow us to continue invest and grow our investment in this country.
Yeah, and that's really what I want to talk about because, of course, you have incredible credibility, not just on Wall Street's watch, but also from within your company. I mean, your father was a GM factory worker. You worked summers at GM factories. You've been leading this great American company for so long. Have you ever seen a period in your time here in this business and as a student of this?
So how don't y'all think that she qualified to be the CEO of the company? She's been groomed for the position since she was a little kid.
Industry as what you've seen recently in terms of how tough it's been?
Well, thank you so much. I am super proud that I followed in my father's footsteps, and together the two of us have over 85 years with this company. And I did grow up in manufacturing, and so it's near and dear to my heart. I think what we're seeing, though, is a shift that is necessary because for decades we've not have had a level playing field. So with the clarity that we received on Tuesday, and that's why we waited to have this call, because we wanted to have that be official so we could update our guidance. And we're going to work because, as you well know, what the announcements made, they expire, parts of them expire over the next 2 years. But now we're really focused on what we're going to do to grow our manufacturing in this country and build on the fact that we already have more employees in this country than anyone else. We have 50 manufacturing facilities that include 19 assembly plants. And so we're going to continue to build on that and support the 1 million people in this country that depend on General Motors, our employees, our dealers, and our suppliers.
But at the same time, Mary, at the end of the day, you are facing a $4 to $5 billion hit to earnings because of tariffs. You may have the clarity that you don't have stacked tariffs anymore, with tariffs everywhere from, the auto parts to the aluminum and steel, et cetera. But you are facing these tariffs. So something's got to give. What are you doing to offset this? Are you going to raise prices? Are you going to eat the cost? Are you going to change something? Are you going to cut into the EV production? What's the plan?
Well, one of the things, and we've already started to do this, we've added the capacity at our Fort Wayne assembly plant in Indiana that builds full-size trucks that have added workforce to be able to build 50,000 more trucks in this country yet this year, and that's on an annualized basis. We're continuing. We have already built 2 battery cell plants in this country with our joint venture partner. We're in the process of building a 3rd. Already our supply chain, and this is something we started doing a few years back, is we recognized we needed to have supply chain resiliency. And over the course of the last 5 years, we've increased the number of parts going into our vehicles assembled in the U.S. by 27%. Our reliance on China for parts, in some cases, they're the only place where the parts are available. That's now down to less than 3%. So our overall USMCA compliance is already at 80%, over 80% actually, for the vehicles that we assemble in this country. We're going to continue to work with our suppliers to grow that, as well as making more announcements like we did with what we're doing in Fort Wayne to leverage the extensive footprint we already have in this country. So we have a lot of actions that we can take. From a pricing perspective, we've said and we've included in our guidance, we think pricing is going to stay at the same level as it is. And I'm really proud of the GM team because we have such a strong ICE and EV portfolio that gives consumers choice, and we've been able to maintain discipline and not have high incentives because our vehicles are in demand. So we're going to keep focusing on the customer, giving them choice, and we think there's a lot we can do to impact those tariffs by continuing to increase our U.S. content and continuing to build even more cars in this country than we do today.
Yeah, I like those Denali's. But one thing that she did say that stick out to me was her current compliance to USMCA compliance. What she's basically saying, and you got to be careful when you listen to these calls, when you listen to these interviews. That's one thing that I'm an expert at, is I listen for certain things. I don't listen to get a general idea of trying to understand what they're saying. I'm listening for certain keywords that she says. She says her current USMCA compliance is over 80%. Well, what does that mean? The USMCA is what was originally replacing NAFTA, right? NAFTA was the North America Free Trade Agreement. USMCA is the United States, Mexico, and Canada, meaning that she's saying that compliance of parts and assembly here in the United States of America, Mexico, and Canada. Not just the United States of America manufacturing over 80%. That means that 20% of the products or 20% of the parts are manufactured outside of the United States, Mexico, and Canada. The compliance is based off of things being made here in North America. All right? So what that means is that they still have a lot of work to do, not only bringing the other 20% over here in the United States of America, but also bringing the rest from Mexico and Canada into the United States of America, because their compliance is based off of USMCA. You got to listen to these executives. You got to listen to these people, because a lot of times they will say things. You'll be like, oh, yeah, all of this stuff is made over here in the United States. No, it's made in Mexico, the United States, and Canada. That's their compliance. Now they need to comply with getting more jobs over here inside of the United States of America. If you listen to what she said, let me see if I can rewind it a little bit.
From a pricing perspective, we've said and we've included in our guidance, we think pricing is going to stay at the same level as it is. And I'm really proud of the GM team, because we have such a chain resiliency. And over the course of the last 5 years, we've increased the number of parts going into our vehicles assembled in the U.S. by 27%. Our reliance on China for parts, in some cases, they're the only place where the parts are available. That's now down to less than 3%. So our overall USMCA compliance.
Our overall USMCA compliance. Remember that. She said our overall USMCA compliance. Let me replay it for you guys.
It's now down to less than 3%. So our overall USMCA compliance is already at 80%.
Doesn't mean the majority, doesn't mean that all of the parts that are made over here are made in the United States of America. Is based off of being USMCA compliant. All right? USMCA, not YMCA, Trini Life. USMCA compliance. They say these words and they are trained to communicate the way that they are so that it makes it seems good to the United States of America. But to shareholders, we hear a completely different thing. To people that are looking to invest in a company, we think about it from a completely different conversation. That's why it was important for Trump to renegotiate the U.S. or to renegotiate NAFTA into the USMCA, and then also get more favorable terms, while at the same time levying tariffs to incentivize companies to bring more parts here to the United States of America. All right? That's why China was moving all of their manufacturing over to Mexico, so that they can circumvent the tariffs that were being levied against them. But you can't finesse us through Mexico and think that we're going to be compliant with what you got going on. Nope, we're not doing it. We're not doing it. And the fact that they are able to absorb means that they already were having a decent sized margin of what they were charging people over there. And so now you need to bring your stuff over here, and then we'll still continue to pay the same prices. They're saying that they're not increasing prices. They are going to keep pricing the exact same, and they'll just revise down guidance. But I'm sure that they'll find a saving somewhere.